In this tutorial, we are going to look at how to polypaint and manipulate the details on a character in ZBrush. We are also going to look at how to transfer complex geometry from one mesh to another without losing information or progress. To complete this tutorial, you will need a high-resolution sculpt of your character and an unwrapped low-resolution mesh of your character. Once you have both of these object files, import them into ZBrush like so. Notice that my current subtool becomes what I have just imported. If you want to import two separate meshes, you will need to select another subtool to avoid overwriting the current one. Now with your high-resolution subtool selected, go to Append and select your low-resolution subtool. You will now notice that these are both within the same subtool window and can both be visible at the same time. This is vital for transferring the high-resolution model's information over to the low model. As you can see, my low-resolution model has significantly better topology than my high-resolution. The aim is to combine this topology with the detail of the high-resolution mesh into one subtool. Before I transfer the details, I like to cut out any parts I do not want. In this case, I do not want the shape of the eyes to be transferred, so I'm going to remove them from my high-resolution mesh before transferring any detail. There are a few ways to do this, but I like to just mask them off and then go down to Split and click Split Mask Points. You will now see that the masked areas have been moved to a different subtool slot. Select that slot and simply press Delete. With the high resolution visible, select your low resolution model and scroll down to Project. I like to use a distance setting of 0.02. Now press Project All. Then press Ctrl D to subdivide the model. Press Project All again. Repeat this step on every subdivision or level until you are at a standard that you are happy with. I like to subdivide my low resolution model up to around 1 million active points. This should provide me with enough geometry to replicate the data from the high resolution mesh. As you can see, my subdivided low resolution model now has a detail level virtually identical to my high resolution in all the places I want. There is a little ledge around the eye sockets from where I masked them off, but that can easily be smoothed over. I now no longer need the original high resolution base sculpt, so I delete it. Now we are ready to begin texturing within ZBrush. If you have already started a diffuse texture, you can import it by going to Texture, Import. With it selected, you may need to flip it vertically. This is because ZBrush reads UVW coordinates inverted compared to 3ds Max and Maya. Now come down to Texture on this panel. Select your texture and click Texture On. You should now see your texture appear on your model. Mine is a monotone color just for this example. To begin editing this texture, you will need to go to Polypaint and select Polypaint from Texture. Be sure that mRGB mode is on when you do this. If you now switch to RGB mode, you should be able to paint onto your texture. If you do not have a texture and you are starting from scratch, then go to Color, select the midtone color that you want for your character, and click Fill Object. Once this is done, you will be able to select any color you want from the palette and paint it onto your model. You can select different brushes like so, and if you have Z add-on as well as RGB, you will be able to paint and sculpt your model simultaneously. If you want to pick a color that is already on your model, then just press C and click on that color. You can also sculpt and paint the finer details into your model with speed using alpha brushes like so. ZBrush comes with decent default brushes, but you can easily make your own if you want to. Select a plane as a new subtool. This is where you can sculpt your very own alpha texture. Once you are happy with your texture, go to Alpha, Transfer, Grab Dock. You should now see your alpha texture in the alpha rollout panel. You'll notice that when I paint this brush onto the model, we can see an edge to the texture. We can eliminate that by adjusting the texture settings in the Modify panel under Alpha. I like to turn on Anti-Aliased and bump up the contrast and radial fade slightly. For more information on creating alphas, I have linked a video by YouTuber Aramis3D in the description. Use the methods taught throughout this video to create the visuals you want for your character. When you are ready to export these textures, go down to Texture and press Create from Polypaint. Then press Clone and come up to Texture at the top panel. Flip it vertically and export it as the file type you want. So that's the diffuse texture done. For the normal map texture, take your model down to its lowest subdivision, go down to Normal Map and press Flip G. This is flipping the green channel for your normal map. Once again, this is just because ZBrush reads and compiles data slightly differently to 3ds Max. Now press Create Normal Map. And same as before, just go to Texture at the top, flip vertically and press Export. Once your textures are exported, you can of course still manipulate them in Photoshop. So once you've done that, finally, test them out on your unwrap model with some lighting. I hope this tutorial was of use, and I'll catch you guys again.